To our top story that's defining the news agenda, India is gearing up amidst Omicron variant scare. The Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai has announced mandatory testing and home isolation for all the passengers from South Africa, Hong Kong and Botswana. And if found positive, the sample is going to be sent for genome sequencing. The BMC has also announced re-inspection of all the COVID centers, medicine stocks, production, storage of oxygen, amongst other precautionary measures. Maharashtra Chief Minister has also chaired meeting with BMC chairman yesterday to discuss the new variant threat and has announced penalty for all the violators. Kerala government has also made testing and quarantine for 7 days mandatory for all the passengers. Meanwhile, MP Chief Minister has called for a meeting at 12 noon at his residence with ministers to discuss the threat. Karnataka government also has taken stringent measures to battle the new variant threat. My colleague Sneha Mordani talks to top virologist Gagandeep Kang on COVID's newest variant of concern, Omicron. Listen in.
How concerned or worried are you about the newest variant of concern, Omicron, that the World Health Organization has spoken about? In fact, the WHO has just said that there must not be any panic around it. But are you genuinely concerned looking at the manner in which it has spread in a handful of countries already?
Yes, it is a variant of concern and it has spread very rapidly. The good thing about it is the fact that since we had the first identification on the 9th of November, we already have a good sense of the sequence data. We know that this is a strain that has mutations unlike the constellations that have been seen previously. So there are chances that it will spread more easily and some chances that it may be able to evade the immune response. Of course, those data are not completely known, but at least based on sequencing, we know that this is something that we need to track very, very carefully.
You know, Professor Kang, do you believe that there is a possibility that this variant would have traveled to more than just a handful of countries beyond Botswana, Israel, beyond Hong Kong and South Africa?
Well, it's already been reported from Belgium and Israel as well as Hong Kong, South Africa, and it was originally reported from Botswana and South Africa. Some of the travelers have been through Malawi, the one that landed up in Israel, and the traveler in Belgium came through Egypt. So it's very possible that this virus may be in many more places than have been detected so far. And it speaks to the importance of making sure that we sequence everything that comes in with travelers.
How important it is for India to ensure quicker and more genome sequencing right now, given that we already know that there is a possibility, and India is concerned already. The Prime Minister's held a meeting on this, that it could have traveled to India as well. What's the need of the hour right now?
I think rapid sequencing, but more than rapid sequencing, the most important thing is to be able to track travelers, to identify people who have come in from other places, and then make sure that we are able to identify anyone who might be infected and where they go. If we have really good testing and tracking, that will allow us to identify those people who are bringing the virus in and help us to make sure that we have a good surveillance system and that we can stop onward transmission of this variant.
You know, Professor Kang, many people may say that this is a bit of a knee-jerk reaction, but some countries are already imposing restrictions on travel from these countries where the variant has been found. Do you think it's time for India also do the same? Because better to be safe than be sorry. What do you think?
So when you close borders, how long do you close them for? And how do you make sure that you identify every infection that might potentially come into the country?
India is on high alert over the new monstrous Omicron strain threat. Prime Minister has chaired a crucial meeting wherein he asked the officials to be proactive in the light of new super mutant virus. Besides the centre, several states including Delhi, Maharashtra and Karnataka have devised measures to combat the new threat. Here's a look.
A new COVID variant is on the prowl. Omicron, a highly transmissible variant, is now the cause of concern worldwide.
This variant has multiple mutations in its spike protein, which is the main target of the existing vaccines. Whether vaccines need to be updated is a topic that needs further discussion. But at this time, what we need to do is to make sure that everybody has received at least 2 doses of vaccine, which will give them the maximum available protection, particularly against severe disease.
And as the new strain makes its way through several African nations, India too is gearing up to tackle the super mutant. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Saturday chaired an important meet on the COVID situation in the country amid concerns over the new variant. Prime Minister Modi, while instructing officials to be proactive in light of the new variant, also stressed on intensive containment and active surveillance, along with emphasis on intensifying second dose coverage across the country. An action plan is already in place. Samples of COVID-positive travellers who arrived in India in the last 2 weeks from at-risk countries are being sent for genome sequencing. States and union territories have been asked to conduct screening at airports. Travellers from 12 countries, including South Africa, Hong Kong and Botswana, are to be screened for the new variant. States too have readied their fight plan. The national capital has issued fresh COVID directives. Lieutenant Governor Anil Baijal has asked to ensure strict adherence to COVID norms at public places. The LG will be chairing a crucial meet on Monday. Maharashtra government too has issued fresh restrictions. While international travellers shall be governed by directions of the centre, domestic travellers need to be either fully vaccinated or carry a negative RT-PCR test report valid for 72 hours. The Gujarat government has also made RT-PCR testing mandatory for international travellers. Karnataka is equipped with 6 genomic sequence labs, and samples of passengers from affected countries will be tested for the new variant.
जो प्रवासी आ रहे उनको जो दक्षिण अफ्रीका हो या दूसरे देश से आते कंट्री से तो उनको जीनोम सीक्वेंसिंग का चेक करना पड़ेगा। उसके बाद जो हमारे देश में आते तो उनको क्वारंटाइन करके वो सब चेकिंग होने के बाद ही छोड़ा जाएगा।
We'll again do the RT-PCR on their arrival in Bangalore. We'll be watching them for next 1 week. We came out with 6 genomic labs. So we are completely in a situation where we can send our samples and we can sequence. We can also find out the way how this virus is progressing, how this mutation is behaving.
The World Health Organization has warned Southeast Asian nations over the new variant and asked them to scale up screening and increase their vaccine coverage. As the holidays near, we need to be on guard against the new variant. Bureau Report, India Today.
Omicron was discovered in southern Africa earlier this month. Omicron variant of coronavirus has an already stressed world more worried. This variant is believed to be spreading faster than the Delta variant. Here is more.
Stock markets plummet. Global economy is in a tailspin. World Health Organization calls it a variant of concern. Countries re-implement travel bans. Scientific community says new strain is horrific. It's happening all over again. A new variant of coronavirus, now named Omicron, has set alarm bells ringing across the world. So, with this bolt from the blue, are we back to square one in our fight against COVID-19? Here's what we know about the new variant, Omicron. B.1, .1, .529 or Omicron was first identified in South Africa. The World Health Organization has classified it as a variant of concern now. Scientists say the new variant carries a high number of mutations in its spike protein. In the new variant, there were 50 mutations overall, with more than 30 on the spike protein. This is what the World Health Organization has had to say about this variant.
Based upon the information that we have, particularly from South Africa, they have advised WHO that this variant should be classified as a variant of concern. So today we are announcing B11529 as a variant of concern named Omicron.
Where did it come from? The new strain Omicron, a B.1.1.529, was first identified or detected in South Africa. There have been close to 100 fully confirmed cases in the Gauteng province of South Africa. A theory suggests that this new variant is likely to have evolved during a chronic infection of an immunocompromised person. Is the new variant more lethal then? Researchers are trying to confirm whether the new variant with 50 mutations is more transmissible or lethal. The WHO has called for caution in the initial stages of dealing with this variant. It could affect transmissibility, disease severity, immune escape, diagnostic or therapeutic escape. It can also cause community transmission or clusters. This variant has a large number of mutations, some of which are concerning. Preliminary evidence suggests an increased risk of reinfection with this variant. How many cases of the new variant have been recorded then? Well, there have been 77 fully confirmed cases in the Gauteng province in South Africa. There are indications that show that 90% of cases in Gauteng may already be of this variant. Alarm was also raised after cases recorded in South Africa jumped from 200 to 2,465 within 7 days. The number of cases of this variant appears to be increasing in almost all provinces in South Africa. Researchers are still looking into the data on deaths caused by the variant. The rise comes following weeks of relatively low transmissions. 4 cases have been reported in Botswana and 2 in Hong Kong. Israel and Belgium have also detected cases of the new COVID-19 variant. Will the Omicron variant dodge immunity provided by vaccines is the question that everyone is now asking. Scientists are researching on how effective existing vaccines might just be against this new variant. The WHO has said there is little information on that matter. Breakthrough infections have been reported in South Africa among people who have received the Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer-BioNTech and Oxford's AstraZeneca vaccines. No deaths have been recorded as of yet. The 2 travelers in Hong Kong who tested positive were vaccinated with the Pfizer vaccine. What are the other variants of concern then? The WHO had designated 4 other variants of concern called the Alpha, the Beta, the Gamma and Delta variant. The WHO added variant Omicron as the 5th designated variant of concern on the 26th of November. How is India reacting to it? India has yet to take the extreme step of a travel ban on South Africa or neighboring countries from where these cases have been reported. The government, meanwhile, has asked states to rigorously screen and test travelers coming from South Africa, Botswana and Hong Kong. With alarm bells raised, several countries have announced travel bans while others are tightening border controls in what feels like a never-ending battle against COVID-19.
Amidst the new threat of Omicron, the debate over the need of booster dose has once again emerged. While top immunologists have suggested the booster dose for the ones with weaker immunity, the government has said that they are still assessing the need for the 3rd dose. Here's more on the story.
Whether we call it a booster or a 3rd dose or a 4th dose, it's very clear that we need to monitor the immune systems of immunocompromised individuals very, very carefully and make sure that they have some level of response to vaccine. We do need specific vaccination strategies, specific management strategies for them, and so far we have not had that.
There is a need and the time is now. That is the word from India's top vaccinologists, doctors, health experts on the 3rd dose or the additional dose for those with poor immunity. At a time when the world has been confronted with the 5th variant of concern, Omicron, there is a growing demand for boosters in India, hoping it would offer further protection to those with compromised immunity. The government has so far said they're studying the need for the additional dose.
We'll continue to explore the timing and the need for the boosters going along. There are studies that are in the offing. There are studies that are ongoing, in fact, and there is data that's very systematically being tracked.
But the world is in a fix, say experts, and we can't wait, as vaccine hesitancy and complacency are also settling in.
There has been a vaccine hesitancy growing over past 1 month. And rather than having at least 1 crore vaccination per day, we are having 50-60 lakh per day. So we need to escalate vaccination. Number 2, we do not know whether this vaccine will protect this variant or not. And therefore, we need to have newer research and see that this variant is also covered in the vaccination program.
Urgent need of a third dose, which is now being called as a booster dose, but should be a part of the primary immunization. I think the boosters are extremely important in India. We should have a plan, but the fact is we need to be extremely wary and careful with regards to new mutants.
The focus, however, of the government is on the second dose coverage. The Prime Minister on Saturday took a review meeting in which he took stock of the slow pace of the second dose coverage in India that stands at around 45%.
The National Technical Advisory Group on Immunization is all set to meet towards the end of this month to discuss the need for booster doses for the immunocompromised population in India. A decision is obviously going to be depending on the kind of threat India perceives vis-a-vis the fifth variant of concern. A lot is going to depend on how India is analyzing the situation to protect its immunocompromised population in the light of the World Health Organization identifying the fifth variant of concern. In New Delhi, Sneha Murdani for India Today.
Despite high pollution levels and threat of new Omicron variant, Delhi government has announced to reopen schools from 29th of November. The Deputy Chief Minister and Education Minister of Delhi, Manish Sisodia, announced the decision on Twitter. All Delhi schools and colleges were closed by the Aam Aadmi Party government earlier in view of increased air pollution. On 13th November, Delhi CM Arvind Kejriwal announced to close all schools and colleges for a week and conduct the classes in a virtual mode from 15th of November. The decision to reopen schools comes at a time when Delhiites continue to breathe the toxic air. There are also huge concerns over the new Omicron variant in the national capital. On Saturday, Delhi's LG, Anil Baijal, instructed the Chief Secretary, Commissioner of Police and other senior officials concerned to be on alert and ensure full preparedness to combat any future crisis. The Delhi LG will also chair a key COVID review meeting with DDMA officials on Monday, the same day the schools in Delhi are supposed to open. And ahead of the all-party meeting, ahead of the winter session of the Parliament, the meeting is going to be chaired by Prime Minister Modi. May witness an assertive opposition raising key issues ahead of winter session scheduled to commence tomorrow. The opposition is likely to flag up issues like law on MSP, rising inflation, Pegasus, fuel price rise and Tripura political violence, amongst others. While the government is likely to seek opposition support to pass bills for repealing farm laws, bills to regulate cryptocurrency is also reportedly in the offing. A joint committee of Parliament is likely to submit its report in the first week of winter session that will end on 23rd December on Personal Data Protection Bill 2019. Sharbat Gula, the green-eyed Afghan woman who was made famous by the US photographer Steve McCurry, has now finally found refuge. The Afghan woman has now found shelter in Italy. Take a look at this report.
The green-eyed Afghan woman. Afghanistan's most famous refugee, Sharbat Gula. She has now been given refuge in Italy as a part of efforts to rehabilitate Afghans after Taliban's hostile takeover. Sharbat Gula was first found by US photographer Steve McCurry, who captured her portrait in a Pakistan refugee camp in 1985 when she was just 12 years old. Devastated and tormented, Sharbat's daunting gaze in the picture showcases the human tragedy of war-torn Afghanistan. The picture was published on the cover of a leading magazine. The world didn't even know Sharbat's name then. After 17 long years and many dead ends, Steve McCurry, the photographer who first clicked her picture, was able to locate her in 2002. She was in her 30s and already a mother of 3. Her glaring green eyes still spoke of the horrors that her country has faced. Like many Afghans, she sought refuge in Pakistan and lived there for over 30 years. But she was imprisoned and deported back to Afghanistan for having a fake Pakistani identity card in 2016. She was welcomed by then Afghan President Ashraf Ghani at the presidential palace and handed over a key to her own apartment. Since Taliban took over Afghanistan after the exit of the US troops in August, Sharbat requested the Italian government to help escape the brutality of Taliban. Gula's wish was finally answered and she was given safe haven in Italy. As she settles down in her new home, she would hope that while the scars of war-torn Afghanistan will always remain, her wounds of a painful past can finally heal. Bureau Report, India Today.
That's a wrap from me, Chaiti Narula, on this bulletin. For further news and updates, don't forget to log on to indiatoday.in or go ahead and download our app.